It should be as obvious to Washington as it is to the rest of the world. Austerity is a complete and total failure. On Friday, just in time for John Boehner and company to fly home for recess, Congress admitted as much by passing a bill that provides funds to rehire those air traffic controllers furloughed by our austerity, our sequestration cuts. This was the right thing to do, as the dearth of air traffic controllers has caused numerous flight delays across the country in recent weeks. But if Congress can find a way to protect itself and the richest Americans from the effects of failed policies, it can also find a way to help the rest of us, especially those who are literally dying from this entirely avoidable mess of sequestration austerity. Steny Hoyer, congressman from Maryland, slammed his fellow representatives in a speech explaining why he would vote against the FAA fix bill.
While I want to end these delays for passengers in Maryland and across the country, I will oppose this bill because it fails to address the whole impact of sequester. Let me share just a handful of examples of how the sequester will affect Americans. Education, Head Start, 70,000 children will be kicked out of Head Start. Nothing in this bill deals with them.
Goes through a long, long list of programs and people. Nothing in that deal helps them either. Representative Hoyer is absolutely correct. The lack of empathy for the thousands of toddlers who won't get a chance to go to preschool, or the tens of thousands of seniors who are now going to have to decide which meal to skip, is startling. Isn't it time for Congress to fulfill its constitutional obligation and work for the general welfare of all Americans, not just the richest 1%? Let's ask Neal Asbury, entrepreneur and host of the Truth for America radio show. Neal, welcome.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Now that we know that austerity is bad policy, it doesn't work, it has thrown a whole bunch of European nations into screaming disasters, it is harming the United States, isn't it time for the, and by the way, Ronald Reagan never did it. He spent money, you know, at a much faster rate, frankly, than Barack Obama is. Isn't it time to say enough already? We're gonna undo it, at the very least, the sequestration.
Oh, boy, I mean, we could really use Ronald Reagan now so we had some leadership in this country. But come on, this is being insincere. The American people have had to tighten their belts, and the only thing that sequestration has done is told the federal government to save a couple of pennies on every dollar you're spending.
The American people are tightening their belts so that people like Mitt Romney can pay 12% on his income taxes. Come on, Neal, there's nothing fair or reasonable about that. Corporate income tax collections now are at the lowest they've been since the 1950s. Personal income tax collections right now and personal income tax rates that are being paid are the lowest they've been since the 1940s. This is crazy.
Oh, come on, Tom. Tom,
we're the richest country in the world.
This is all scaremongering and fearmongering going on. You're just trying to
70,000 seniors not getting meals is fearmongering?
The American people. But let's get people working in this country, and the only way we're going to get people working in this country is if we take on this fiscal crisis that we're in. We have to reduce government spending. Maybe, Tom, both you and I can agree on is that if we attacked government waste, we would have all the money we need.
We have reduced government spending
and to spend on these programs.
Neal, we have reduced government spending.
We have $1 trillion of government waste in our budget.
We have reduced government spending, and it has led to more unemployment. Europe reduced government spending radically, and now Spain has 28% unemployment. If anything, what we should be saying is we don't have a spending problem in this country, and we don't have a debt problem in this country. We have an unemployment problem in this country. And in the past, we've had unemployment problems. The government has become the employer of last resort, because Republicans like you won't let them do it.
Oh, no, that's nonsense, because they don't have a plan. They never had a plan. They're lost. Either that they've just never been connected with the American entrepreneurial
Neal, you and I both know that if it was not for Republican obstructionism, no, Nancy Pelosi passed a number of good pieces of legislation out of the House of Representatives when she was there. Every single one got destroyed by the Republicans in the United States Senate. Every effort to put Americans back to work, every effort to put the job creators back to work, the people who spend all of the money that they make, to make the government the employer of last resort, to bring our manufacturing back home, all of those efforts so that they could blame this economic crisis on Obama.
That's why we want to tax the American entrepreneur more. That's why we passed Obamacare.
The American
because we're connected to the American
is
job
paying
creator.
the lowest taxes they have paid in 3 generations.
Tom, unfortunately, and I agree with you on this, unemployment in this country is a travesty. Unemployment has become a career in this country. We should all be ashamed of that. Long-term unemployment is only teaching our people to stay at home. They're not being taught to go out there and even look for jobs.
So instead of giving people unemployment checks,
in this country,
instead of giving people unemployment checks,
taking responsibility for this?
Why don't we bring back the WPA and the CCC and put those people to work with the $2 trillion worth of infrastructure that needs to be repaired since basically Reaganomics stopped
how are we going to pay for
building
it, Tom?
America?
How are we going to pay for it?
We have plenty. We are the richest country in the world. We are the richest country in the world.
Borrow money from China? Is that our only solution?
We are the richest. No, it's not our only solution. We can say to Mitt Romney, sorry, buddy, you're going to have to pay the same tax rate as the surgeon who saved my wife's life.
Now, what we got to do, Tom, is we have to create an environment where all our risk takers and entrepreneurs want to get back into the game and building their businesses. But we're never going to do that with this administration. Unfortunately, because they will not attack the budget crisis.
Our risk takers and entrepreneurs are not the ones who create the jobs. The people who create the jobs are the people who spend the money that creates the demand that people like you and I fill. And if those people have no money...
who are they? They are the long-term unemployed? Is that our solution?
And that's my point. Well, first of all, the long-term unemployed are getting less and less and less in terms of money. The sequester is cutting unemployment benefits. But instead of giving people unemployment benefits, why don't we go back to what FDR said? He said the best welfare program is a job. Let's make the government... If capitalism is incapable of filling a need in America, let's have the government do it.
Capitalism is very capable. We're the richest country in the world. We're the most successful country in the world. Look at all the inventions that this country is responsible for. But right now, we have this noose around our heads, and that's called the Obama administration, who has no clue what it takes to create jobs in this country. And that's why we have this crisis.
The Obama administration is facing
unemployed.
constant obstruction in the United States Senate by Republicans who will not even let him appoint judges to the First Circuit Court. Much less.
Tom, the Democrats control the White House and they control the Senate. Don't they share any blame in this at all?
Absolutely. Actually, no. You know, given how much obstruction, given that conspiracy meeting at the night that Obama was first inaugurated 5.5 years ago at the Caucus Room restaurant here in Washington D.C., where these Republicans, Paul Ryan and the others, basically swore a blood oath to each other, Jim DeMint, that they would do everything they could to screw the Obama administration and us to make things better. No, I'm blaming I'm laying this totally at the feet of the Republicans. They do not control the government.
Do anything with it.
They controlled the government for 13 weeks until Scott Brown was sworn in. That was it. And then the filibusters began. But Neal, we're out of time.
The only thing they can do is give America Obamacare, which is one of the biggest disasters that this generation will ever face.
Yeah, it's a disaster that 40 million people are going to get health insurance. Okay, Neal, thanks a lot for being with us.
Hey, Tom,
we'll be right
thanks.
back.
Thanks for having me.